Try that again. Hello. I didn't mean to wake that guy up. This selection came about as a result of an experience I had a couple of years ago. I was actually made to write a memoir. I didn't want to do it, but my wife made me, and I got a big advance. So I went ahead and did it, but I was looking for, I was fighting this notion of writing a memoir off. The last thing I wanted to write was about myself. And I was fighting this idea off, and I was looking for inspiration, so I went into my bookshelf, and I pulled out this memoir that J. Frank Dobie wrote called Some Part of Myself, and I was looking for inspiration, I was looking for some philosophy, I was looking for some guidance, and when I got invited to this wonderful gig here, I returned to that book, and within the first 4 pages I found a part that was very, very important to me, and so I'll share that with you right now. Some Part of Myself by J. Frank Dobie. Unless a person attaches a good deal of importance to himself, he or she would never attempt an autobiography. Even if a writer never talks directly about himself, but only about what he has observed, he has a good opinion of himself as observer, and cannot possibly avoid revealing his sense of values, which may be the most important asset that any human being possesses. If voting were limited to individuals with a just sense of values, and if enough voters were left after the delimiting process had been accomplished, the nations would be transmuted into utopias. How timely. Autobiography is not nearly so specialized a form of writing as is generally taken for granted. The author of the most banal textbook in education reveals unconsciously the life-killing mediocrity of his own mind. Oh, that he were here to write me down an ass, as Dogberry cried. Every person who writes anything on any subject at all writes down the degree of his own asininity. Nobody, you know, has an absolute minus in that attribute. The gradations are in pluses. Some never hear, as in Barry's Rosalind, quote unquote, the still voice saying, ass, Charles, ass. A writer, whether he is sincere or hypocritical, churlish or generous, humorous or humorless, sensuous, sensual, or insensate, whether led by fleeting beauty to the doorway of the dead or stagnating in obtuseness to it, any and every writer is always writing himself down, is constantly giving out what he has fed on. This would not be so true of a writer in some strict field of science or even of science fiction as of writers in general. Yet, even mathematicians have to express themselves. Autobiography is frequently regarded as a kind of personal monument, self-erected. Some autobiographies seem to have been written on the principle followed by Shanghai Pierce in having a life-size marble statue of himself carved, incidentally by a tombstone maker, and set up overlooking his ranch. Somebody asked him why he put it up. I knew damn well nobody would if I didn't, he replied. The best novels are written to say something about life in fiction form. The greatest plays say something about life in dramatic form. And I'm positive, without being able to prove it, that Hamlet reveals the innerness of Shakespeare, as no biography based on 10,000 documented facts, if they existed, could reveal. The great poems say something about life in poetry forms. The great biographies and autobiographies say about life in their forms. The autobiographical medium permits considerable saying about life ruled out by other mediums of writing. Thus, Somerset Maugham explains his reason for writing the summing up, the wisest modern book I know on life and writing. This book was published in 1956. That was, if you were a writer in 1956, that was a very important book for you. It is a book of ideas, not of reminiscences, though plenty of experience enters into it. It ends with a quotation from Fray Luis de Leon. The beauty of life is nothing but this, that each should act in conformity with his nature and his business. Unless an autobiography is written in conformity with the writer's nature and business, it is not valid. Yet, that statement is so vague that it is valueless. Here I am a writer, this is Dobie speaking, here I am a writer with some interest, not overpowering, not nearly so overpowering as was my interest in the Longhorns and in the Mustangs, in writing about and out from myself. The main trouble is a very old one, what to select. One part of me goes in the path set by W.H. Hudson's Far Away and Long Ago. In this autobiographical classic, the harsh world is forgotten in the distilled innocence of a vanished life. It is a pleasure to me to recollect another vanished life that is a part of me, soon to vanish also. Yet, I am not vain enough to imagine that anything I might write will stay the vanishing. The wild flowers of a rainy spring and the grasses of a showery summer are good and beautiful and sufficient, even though they vanish. I have come to value liberated minds as the supreme good of life on earth. The subject is very complex and proliferates into many areas of living. I should not be satisfied with an autobiography that did not bear witness to my passionate belief in freedom of thought. Anybody with intellectual perspective who exercises freedom of thought becomes a free thinker, a thinker unbound by custom or creed. He is a skeptic. Any time that anybody in this period of excessive religiosity, generally as alien to the spiritual as the grossest materialism and the rankest obscenity, evidences skepticism. He arouses controversy and is charged with being an atheistic communist. More times than not, controversy defeats its own aims. Shall I write of the far away and long ago as a thing apart, or infuse it into some of the stubborn questionings that arise from now? Those questionings will dispel the aura that is art and delightfulness. I crave to be an artist, and nobody values more highly than I the delightful in literature. Nearly all controversial writing is dull to me, even when I am on the side of the controversialist. A writer is forever debating with himself not only choice of detail, but what truth to leave out in the interest of another truth. Thank you very much.